Welcome to the New Planner Podcast, where it's all about helping you successfully enter the financial planning profession and accelerate your financial planning career. This podcast will help you understand the profession, become familiar with the various career paths available to you, and avoid the mistakes that limit your success. Join your host, Caleb Brown, to explore the human side of creating a successful planning career through interviews, personal experience, and insights from the trenches. Let's get started.
Welcome to the 253rd episode of the New Planner Podcast. This is Caleb Brown, your host. My guest today is Patrick Moore, who is the founder and a wealth advisor at Ironclad Wealth Management. Patrick joins the show today to share his financial planning journey. Patrick shared how his father turned him onto the financial services industry via the insurance channel, how they even worked together for a few years after he graduated college before realizing he wanted to do more in-depth financial planning. And then he goes on to share how he started his own firm, the mistakes he made and lessons he learned along the way, and how he's been able to grow the firm. I hope you enjoy this episode with Patrick Moore. Hey, Patrick, welcome to the New Planner Podcast.
Yeah, hey, Caleb, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Really looking forward to this. I look forward to every guest that I interview. I mean, it's just a lot of fun. I love doing this.
I mean, especially me, but I get it.
Yeah, and you were the guy. You were the guy this week. So, yeah, I mean, you're just down in Atlanta, so not that far from me, heavily involved in FPA, and you have a really cool story. So, I mean, look, I'm a Texas Tech guy, but now I'm sort of a UGA guy. And you went to Auburn. I'm sure we'll get into that, and we'll let that slide. But just start us out. Like, when did you know you wanted to become a financial planner?
I think it was gradual. I grew up. My dad owns a few different businesses, and where he got started is he was a general agent for a life insurance company in Birmingham. And so I kind of grew up in the insurance world, not necessarily the financial planning world. He was securities licensed, but, never really talked about that too much. It was definitely back in the day where, it was VULs, VAs, mutual funds. It wasn't quite like that financial planning, bleeding edge type stuff. It would have been back then. And so I grew up, I would say, in an industry that was like tangential to financial planning, at least what I would consider financial planning. So I went to Auburn, kind of tried to, figure out what I was going to do with my life, and got a finance degree because I figured, okay, I need to have a skill, not just like something generic as like a management degree. So sorry to the listeners who have a management degrry, but that was kind of my own take on the
leisure studies. No leisure studies.
No leisure studies for me. But I was like, okay, should I be marketing, finance, something like analytics type stuff. And so I settled on finance. And so that kind of, with the background, kind of naturally led me down the path there. And, come graduation, had a few offers. I got the classic insurance company offer where they gave me a list and said, hey, if you want to come work for us, we got 100 names and you can write them down and we can start getting to work calling them. And so decided I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do the consulting route that I kind of got offered. And so I wound up actually working with my dad for the first couple of years right out of college. And that was kind of doing some like advanced planning insurance work, like case design work, because he was a general agent, so people did his insurance through him. And so I just decided, in the course of doing that insurance wasn't quite for me, although it's a part of what I do today. And I wanted to do true financial planning. So that's kind of a long path, not a very long path, because I decided probably by the time I was 25 what I wanted to do, but it was gradual. And it kind of came from being close to the industry, but not in it. And kind of, I'd say like almost like slowly merging into it right out of college.
Gotcha. And based on your LinkedIn profile, was that the retirement advisor at Transition Planning? Is that the role that we're talking about?
Yeah, it would have been that, or it probably would have been more like advanced. Is there advanced case design with insurance on there?
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so you went to work for your dad, got in there for a few years and said, look, this is fine, but I want something bigger, better, maybe deeper, more comprehensive is what it sounded like.
Yeah, and there's actually a moment I remember when I decided it, because with that brokerage agency, it's, for those in the broker-dealer world, it's kind of like being in the back office, or the RA, or it's kind of like being in the back office, kind of, helping almost develop financial plans, as people be like, okay, this client presents with XYZ, what would you recommend we do on the insurance side of things? And I'd design a little plan and try and get thoughtful with it and say, this is what you're trying to do. This product works, this product doesn't. But, it's that product thing. It's very product oriented. And so I was kind of missing almost on that, like, that human element, understanding what the client's actually trying to do. I was a step removed from that. And so I kind of realized over time that I wanted to do that. And there was a time where I ran a very simple case for an agent we worked with. And it was, for those who, are in the insurance world, is about as simple as it gets, right? It's called a guaranteed universal life. It's just basically a policy that's not going to build cash value. And it's just, as long as it's with a good company, it's like, what's the premium? There's a few bells and whistles, but it's very simple. It's basically like, I want to give you X dollars a month for the rest of my life. And when I pass away, you'll get death benefits. So there's not many moving parts in that sale. So I ran a spreadsheet. I was like, hey, here's the best company. Let's say it was $800. And it's, $100,000 policy. And the guy said, well, what about this company? Where are they? I was like, okay, they're like $950. They're a fine company, but it's about $150 more. And he said to me, well, let's just go with them because I'm already appointed with them. And keep in mind, the appointment process takes 5 minutes because it's all digital and we have all his information. It's literally you click something, sends a DocuSign out. And I'm like, man, like I can do better.
Oh,
Like I can do better than that, so I was like, okay, I want to work. And that's a rare case, right? But I was like, I want to work with the end client. I don't want my advice to be intermediated by anyone, in a manner that I don't agree with. So that's kind and like I said, that's very rare. It happened once, but I'll never forget it. And so, I'm not against insurance, but there's definitely, stuff that happens out there. I think when it's a transact, whether it's insurance or another thing, is if it's transactional sale, I think incentives can get clouded a little bit. And so I wanted to build relationships with clients and so I decided I want to do financial planning. And so back in 2019, I would say my go live date on being my own planner was Jan 1 of 2019. Made a lot of mistakes, tripped on myself, and most importantly, I vaporized a lot of money. But my own money, not my client's money, to be clear. I mean, let me be clear there.
hey, at least it wasn't 2020. It was January
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah. I had a full year to figure that out before that happened. But I've kind of been doing financial planning, I'd say, ever since.
And when you say become your own planner, you mean start your own firm?
Yeah, so I mentioned my dad was securities licensed, and so I kind of got my 65, whatever the other one is, 63 maybe. I've got the licenses, I keep up with them, but I don't remember the numbers. But I kind of was just parked there for a little while. I picked up a couple clients doing very basic investment management. So I had a little bit of revenue, and I went back before this call, but at the beginning of 2019, I kind of went from working for him to doing 95% of what I do was this. So 2019 would have been the first like full year of me doing it. Started slow. I was like 50-50 advisory and insurance that year, and now I'm about 80% advisory and 20% insurance as far as kind of, we'll call it, the business goes.
And is that the goal, to get the insurance side phased out completely?
Yeah, the way I kind of would frame it is I want not phase out completely, but I want to view them as like bonuses. I don't want to. I like recurring revenue. I like waking up in the morning and knowing how much I can count on. And obviously, I think the incentives align with the clients better as well. But almost every financial plan, not everyone, has some element of insurance in it. And like with
Sure.
where I come from and what I do, I'm good at it, so I like doing it. So it's not something I feel like I need to forfeit or give up or give away and like go fee only or anything, because I like doing insurance and I'm good at it. But should it be more than 10 to 15% of the overall revenue? Maybe not, unless it's in like an exceptional year where there's like some large case that, is good for a client. But so I think it's a natural, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's a goal. It's just kind of happened naturally.
Okay. So how long were you with your dad's firm before you launched your own?
So I graduated and I went to work for him in June of 2015. So that would have been 4 years, I guess a little at 3.5 years. And I still do some part-time stuff for him right now, like some of that advanced case design stuff. So like I said, that's probably less than 5% of my time.
Okay. So he's still in the business then, or call it the insurance side over here. Okay. Well, at 26 years old, you started your own firm. Did I do the math right? 26? Does that
I haven't
sound
done
right?
the math, but maybe. Yeah.
I mean, you come out of school at 22, you spend about 4 years, 26 years old. Okay. So, but you didn't completely It sounded like you had a little runway. You had a few clients. You had a little gig work with your dad. So it wasn't like, hey, I'm making a couple $100,000 and then I'm going to zero.
No, no, definitely not. I wasn't making a ton of money working for him as a small family business, but it was definitely a slow, steady thing. I did not have to like save up a bunch of money and kind of draw that down or anything like that.
Okay. So mitigating the risk. So, I mean, just talk to us about the thought process on, am I going to join a firm? Am I going to join an XYPN? Am I going to just do my own thing? Like, how did you decide all this stuff?
I think a lot of it was colored by my relationship with my dad. Us working together has been really good for us. Like we enjoy working together. I didn't want to necessarily like cut that off completely, sever that completely, and like go join a firm just because I think that would have been a big change, a big move. In retrospect, it might have been better for my career to do that, like, full transparency. But I've never had to give up that insurance part and it's been good. So I didn't want to give that up. And so what that meant is either I form my own RIA or not form my own RIA, but like go out on my own, form my own DBA, tuck in with another RIA, or I just like stuck with that firm that my dad was working with on the broker dealer. They have an RIA as well, but culturally I wasn't a fit there. So what I said is, okay, Dad, I'll still do some part-time work for you, but I'm gonna, go do my own thing, go join my own RIA and do that. So I don't think I looked at XYPN yet. I kind of found somebody else I knew through the insurance world in 2019 and made a change then to another broker dealer RIA combo. But once again, I think I kind of did it a little quickly. So I wasn't a great fit there either. And so I made a change once again. You mentioned I didn't start in 2020, but I did change RIAs again January 1st of 2020. So it was just a very quick
Ooh,
change where I
yeah.
back to back years, but I didn't have any clients. Everybody's always like, changing RIAs sucks. And yeah, it's true. But if you don't have any clients, it's not that bad. So,
That's one way to look at it.
so like, it was like, whatever. So 2020, I would say is when I really started pedal to the metal, hit the gas a little bit. And I've been with that same RIA since, and it's been going well. And I kind of do my own thing and do my own planning down here. But in the process of that, I looked at XYPN. And at that time, I'm looking at 2020, insurance made up 40% of my revenue in 2020, 30 to 40%. So I goes like, okay, well, if I go XYPN, I love their tech stack. I love what they're doing, but they definitely have that fee only mentality, which I disagree with. And also I had, it was enough of my revenue that I was like, I don't think I can forfeit that for what I viewed in my mind. And sorry, but for what I viewed as kind of like a marketing thing. And I was like, I'm not going to give up that to make that change. So I found an RIA that worked. I could still have my DBA or sorry, OBA, doing insurance stuff and been there ever since. So,
How has it been just, well, I mean, tell us more about your firm. I mean, is it just you or do you have other like support people?
so it's grown. So it's just me doing the planning. I've got an admin who works with me. Who actually, I met back in the insurance world. And then I've got a contracted CIO, outsourced CIO who helps me with the investment decisions. But for the first 2 years, 3 years, it was just me. Um, so like I said, you definitely, and I would say I learned financial planning basically out of the CFP textbook. Like that was kind of where I learned the nitty gritty, the details. So there's definitely stuff you learn from experience that I didn't know the first couple years, but it's just been kind of an iterative process where every year it grows and keeps changing. And I think I'll probably be at a point where I need to bring on a junior advisor in about a year and a half, 2 years. I'll kind of be at that personal capacity level.
Where are you right now? Number of client or families or however you measure households.
I'm at about 50 to 55.
Okay. And what are you thinking you can get up to and serve comfortably?
I'm thinking 75. I had it at 60, but I think with where I am now, I can handle more. So I'm thinking 75 because obviously I haven't been at any other firms to know, but I think I go pretty deep and it's a lot of ongoing service work. Even I'm not waiting on clients to call me with a question. So I feel like my client per advisor ratio will be a little bit lower than the broader industry.
And how have you accumulated these clients? I mean, like, is there a specific niche or how are you getting these people?
So at the start, I had one or two 401ks I took over from my dad. Interestingly enough, they really haven't turned into employees from those 401ks. So I still have both of those. And then I did so the marketing journey has probably been the thing where I've wasted the most money. But I did seminars back in 2019. I got my first big client from a seminar. And so that paid for itself. But the thing is, the seminars were like three to five grand a pop. So I couldn't afford to do many. So even though the ROI was pretty decent, they got so expensive, I couldn't really afford to do them. So come 2020, I started doing webinars. Actually got some pretty good like cost per leads there, but nobody would show. So wasted a bunch of money there. So in that process though, I learned about like niching down, doing some of the research. And so I settled on working with business owners and specifically business owners on their taxes. So just, I think it's because of a product of where I grew up and kind of my own mentality is that, I grew up with my dad who's got a couple businesses and I wanted to kind of work with people who were doing that just because it was my background. And then on the tax side, when it comes to investments, like investments they're up, they're down. If you live and die saying, hey, we're going to just manage investments, I think that you are going to lose, there'll be a lot more attrition with clients. And so taxes, even though there's a lot of gray area in taxes, they're very black and white. It's like, okay, if this is numbers on your 1040 here, you will owe this much in taxes. Like it's something you can plan around. So I went and got my EA a couple of years ago during that process. And so I've been working with business owners who basically have not tax problems, but who want to save money on taxes for a few years now. But that marketing didn't work. But in the process, I learned what I wanted to do. So I think that's almost like money well spent. And then I moved to an SEO firm where that didn't really work. And so I've actually been doing SEO on my own. And I've just naturally met a couple of CPAs who have referred me business over the last couple of years. So most of my business has come from client and CPA referrals with a smattering of some of those seminar and webinar clients. Like we're talking 5 of those. So it's mainly been existing client referrals and CPA referrals. And then, there's just a couple of those natural ones, right? Where you got 1 or 2 family members in the mix as well.
So you're not actually preparing the returns. You're just doing the planning and the projecting and then working closely with the CPA.
That's right. That's right. I don't do, I've got a couple of CPAs I partner with very closely, refer business back and forth, but I'm doing year-end projections, beginning of year projections. I am helping clients like, I'm going as deep as, if they're setting up an S corp from being an LLC, I'm helping them get their payroll and bookkeeping set up. So there's a little bit of like work in there, but not anything that I would consider real bookkeeping or real tax preparation.
I mean, the beauty about that niche is but there's a lot of small business owners out there, right? There's a lot of financial planners that are going after them, but I think there's just so many clients. I mean, everybody, especially here kind of where I live, everybody's got their own business, so that's a potential client for you. So, okay. So how do you charge? And maybe what's your planning price? It sounds like you said earlier, I have and I get this on the recruiting firm. Every firm I talk to, it's like, oh, we're different. Like we go really, really deep. And you're like, so what does that mean? I mean, what does that mean to you? Like your planning process?
Well, so in the process of doing all that iterating and learning, I'd say around 2021, when I did that marketing on kind of niching down, I really dialed into that, and it's a moving target. But right now with where I stand, I charge a monthly retainer fee. And so that's $299 a month up to about $800 a month. I've got only a handful of clients at the top end because it really just depends on how much time I'm committing to it. Like if it's a business owner going through a sale, I've got to meet with their CPA and even their tax attorney and corporate attorneys regularly. They're going to be at that higher end. 95% of my clients are at that $299 a month level. And then what I tell them is I say, okay, well, that's going to get you access to me. We're going to create a plan. It's going to be unbiased. I can afford to make the plan without having to pitch you a product. And we're just going to be on that retainer, and I've got some clients who just do that. But then what I tell them is as part of that plan, there are going to be insurance recommendations. There are going to be investment recommendations. If you want me to do those, well, then I'll make an insurance commission and I'll have an AUM fee. And so it's 0.8% on the first 2 million. So I discount it a little bit because I know they're already paying me a retainer fee. I've debated, up in that a little bit and having some sort of offset on my retainer fee, but I'm not there yet. But those are almost optional in a way. I found the clients who I've got the best relationships with and the ones who have the most success are the ones who, just do it all with me because they have time to go focus on their business. But that's not every client. So I've kind of met some people where they are, and it's purely optional, and almost divorced from the retainer fee in a way because there's no offsets, nothing like that. Occasionally I'll do a one-off like planning fee just like a project fee for, a tax analysis or something like that. But I've almost considered just saying no to those, it's hard to say no to revenue like it is, especially when you kind of started it from scratch. But I'm getting to the point where I think I might just say no to that kind of stuff.
Well, what's an ideal practice look like? I mean, what are you trying to build?
I think an ideal practice is if Caleb comes to me and says, "Hey, I'm a business owner and I've got this business and these are my goals. You come to me and I can handle anything financial." Whether it's me or somebody in my network, like one of those CPAs, you come to me and you're like, "Hey, Patrick, I need you or a vetted partner who's going to help me with payroll, bookkeeping, benefits, my financial plan, my investments, M&A. If I need to sell, whether it's a business broker or like, a true M&A firm, whether it's, setting up an ESOP, I want to have it structured in such a way where we can handle that end-to-end need. And I've got people who I'd say in my extended network who can do that right now. But I'd need to farm out more of that than I'd want to say that I'm like at that end goal right now. But I think that's the end goal.
That's great. Great vision. Yeah. I mean, kind of, it sounds like bringing more of it in house, maybe not all of it, but one-stop shop for the business. So now, I mean, are these business, is it like, they have to be a certain age? I mean, is it millennials? Does it matter, or certain revenue levels? You trying to go for younger people?
And so, revenue levels, I think, are just a function of can they afford the monthly fee? So I don't have an asset minimum. I don't have a minimum related to that. But I've told some people, I'm like, hey, man, or, hey, man, the reality is my fee is too high relative to your income for it to make sense. Like I could help you, but most of my clients I look at and I can return them a multiple of my fee in tax savings. So if I can do that, then I feel like it's a slam dunk. So there's not necessarily a revenue size. It's more of a how big is the business? Can I justify? Because I do a discovery call and I'll typically ask them for a tax return before they're even a client. And I'm not saying here's everything you need to do. I'm looking at it and saying here's two or three things I know we could do just based off what we're looking at, and it could save you this much money. So if you want to sign up, then I'll give you a couple days. I kind of do the I don't know, like the sit on it method, think about it. So I give them a couple days to think about it. And if they want to do it in a couple days, I'm very much a low pressure, like if you want to do it, hey, let's do it type approach.
I mean, you mentioned earlier, like, hey, I made some mistakes. I lost some money on the marketing stuff. I mean, like, I think we all have. Everybody can check that box. When you look back over this 5 or so years, I mean, what has gone better than you expected it to?
The tax planning, the tax planning, even though I think everybody's moving towards doing it, I think it's still a differentiator if it's done well. I think that's the thing that's brought me the most clients and kept me the most clients. I would say without a doubt. And then I think being able to build it and do it on my own has made it take a little longer than it would have otherwise. I could have used some more learning. And I think that'd be something I'd say to most, new planners listening to the podcast would be, I think you could benefit from 3 to 5 years at a firm in some sort of junior advisor role to start. But I also recognize there's a lot of people who are stubborn like me, which might be a defining personality trait, is if somebody tells me something that I need to do and I don't agree with there's not a good reason behind it. Like I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna agree with them. And so I don't think that would have worked well. And I know there's a lot of people out that like there. I'm not saying that I'm unique. So I'm saying, so I can tell people, okay, I think you should take 3 years at a firm, but not everybody's gonna listen to that. So if you don't and you're like me, then I would just say make sure you've got your marketing plan dialed in. Don't expect running a Facebook ad is going to turn into a client. Have your outsource your investment method because it's a lot different managing your own account versus managing a client's account. And I think those would be the two big things actually. So as far as the marketing goes, just I think when you spend time at a firm, you learn who you want to work with. I didn't have that. I took whoever I could work with, and then I kind of developed into it. But I think the marketing and I think the investment side, I say, because it let me focus on the taxes, outsourcing that investment work. The taxes turned into my differentiator. If I thought I could beat the market every year, I wouldn't worry about the taxes, but I don't think I can. And, if anybody who's listening can, give me a call, we can talk about it. But, that was kind of the path I took. And so if that's you, then I'd say go for it. But if I would do things differently, I would take a little bit more of a learning role for a couple of years.
So here you are, doing all this stuff, learning, iterating, making mistakes, getting clients, making money, doing great planning, and then you're getting heavily involved in the Financial Planning Association. So why did you do that, especially the next gen group? So why did you do that, and how has that helped you?
I think two reasons. The first is that I work from home and I work mainly for myself, so I have to see some people and remember how to socialize. So that's like the big one. The second thing though is, when you do tax planning for small business owners, you're working with people who've got a lot of money, typically. And, I told myself back, I think when I first started, I was like, oh, I'm going to have this amount of, we'll call it underprivileged or disadvantaged clients. And running a business from just a truly business perspective, it's not possible to do that with kind of a, profitably, which obviously that's not the point there, but like just managing your own time. So I said, okay, well, yeah, I'll run my business to be a business and I'll just, contribute to nonprofits on the side and kind of do it that way when I get to a certain point. So I've got certain benchmarks related to that I want to hit. So the Financial Planning Association was just a way to kind of get out and basically just, spread the word about the industry. And, I participate on the pro bono stuff as well, through the FPA. And so I just wanted to keep spreading the word and just, meet some like-minded people. And it's been good. I mean, that's how I met you. So, it's been really nice and enjoyable. And if you're working on your own, and even if you're not, I definitely recommend you get out there and, get out into the community. I was really about networking as a marketing activity. You can also network for yourself a little bit too, if it's not business related. And that's kind of what this is for me.
Great stuff, Patrick. Again, appreciate you coming on, sharing all this. Any final, I mean, you've already given us a lot to takeaways here, but any final thoughts or teachable moments or anything you've learned, like, man, if I only would have known that. And you kind of touched on, maybe it was the markeing stuff.
I think it might be the mark. You said teachable moments. It might. I'm actually doing some new marketing right now, and I was talking to one of my friends. We were just going to get dinner or something the other night, and we're driving together. And he said, "So what are you doing right now?" I said, "Oh, I'm probably vaporizing some money right now, because I'm doing this new marketing thing, and so I'm hoping it's not. It's a little tongue in cheek, but it's not. So." I would say, really try and have a good pipeline, have an understanding of that before you jump into it. But just be honest with yourself and say, okay, hey, well, what happens if this doesn't work? What am I going to pivot to? What am I going to change? And do I have some organic things that are going to come in without me having to rely on this marketing spend? Maybe I just haven't found the right marketer in my life. But I've got a new one I'm working with right now. So hopefully, 3 months, I can give you an update and say, hey, it worked. But kind of like somebody telling you they're going to beat the market, somebody tells you they're going to be able to market for you perfectly. They may not, but you just need to have a plan and be ready to adjust and kind of tweak it depending on the results.
Let me ask you this. I promise we'll close out. Do you ask the clients? I mean, do you ask actively for referrals?
I'm not good at that. It's happened naturally. I've got some clusters of referrals, I would say. I got a business coach I work with, and he's always like, yeah, you need to ask for second opinions. I give second opinions to people that you work with, friends, family. I've never been good with that. I've heard some stuff. I'm sorry. I've been working from home for so long. I don't see many people in person these days. So it's like kind of like a Zoom sign off, So I've thought about getting back out there, taking people out to lunch and kind of seeing how that goes, but they've just kind of happened naturally without me having to ask. But I should be better. So.
Yeah. Anyone else, that could, you make them feel, I mean, a lot of firms make them feel like a firm I used to work with, but fill out a satisfaction survey and be like, yeah, we're really impressed. We love you guys. What it's like, well, do you know anybody else that might? I mean, it's a little bit more natural that way, but
I haven't done that. I had, and actually I need to get it restarted. I had a satisfaction survey that people would fill out and they'd push into a Google review. I've kind of, just because I changed some systems, I haven't been doing it recently, but, I need to be better about it, but there's always just been something awkward to me about doing that. And that's just an internal thing. So, but what are they going to do? Say no? Yes, but that's fine.
Well, thanks again, Patrick, for coming on here and talking about your, sort of the ups and downs and really appreciate the transparency. And I know our audience will as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me and hope it helped.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the New Planner Podcast. If you're ready to discover the top career paths for financial planners and see which track is best for you, we created a free guide to help you. Grab your copy of the Financial Planner Career Roadmap at newplannerrecruiting.com/roadmap. There, you'll also find more tools and resources all created to help you build a successful financial planning career. Tune back in next week for another episode, and until then, we're here to help you succeed.